Come with us to explore the captivating history of mathematics from its origins in ancient civilizations to modern times. Get ready to travel through time as we uncover the fascinating history of
Good
mathematics.
morning, class. Today we're going to talk about some of the most important inventions in the history of mathematics from prehistory to the 21st century. Mathematics have come up with some incredible ideas that have changed the way we think about the world. So let's get started. 15 inventions of mathematics. Our first invention is the concept of counting. People have been counting things from thousands of years, but it wasn't until around 3000 BCE that the Sumerians developed a system of writing numbers. This allowed them to keep track of things like rocks, animals, and goods. That's really interesting. What about the number zero? When what is invented? A good question. The concept of zero was first developed by the ancient Indians around the 5th century CE. It was a revolutionary idea that allowed for much more complex mathematical operations. What about geometry? When was invented? Geometry has been around for a long time as well. The ancient Egyptians used it to survey land and build structures like the pyramids, but it wasn't until around 300 BCE that the Greek mathematician Euclid wrote the first comprehensive book on the geometry called The Elements. I've heard of pi. When was that discovered? Pi is a really interesting number. It represents the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. It's been known for thousands of years, but it wasn't until around 250 BCE that the Greek mathematician Archimedes first calculated its value to be between 3.1408 and 3.1429. Now, let's move on to some more recent inventions. In the 17th century, the French mathematician René Descartes came up with the idea of using coordinates to represent geometric shapes. This led to the development of analytic geometry and the Cartesian coordinate system. That sounds complicated. It can be, but it's also incredibly powerful. Analytic geometry is used in everything from computer graphics to engineering. What about calculus? When was that invented? Calculus was invented by both Isaac Newton and Gottfried Leibniz in the late 17th century. It's a branch of mathematics that deals with the rates of change and accumulation, and it's used in everything from physics to economics. I've heard of probability. When was that discovered? Probability has been studied for centuries, but it wasn't until the 17th century that the French mathematician Blaise Pascal and the Dutch mathematician Christian Huygens developed the first formal theories of probability. They were trying to solve problems related to gambling, but their work ended up having application in fields like statistics and insurance. Okay, we're halfway there. Next up is algebra. The roots of algebra go back to ancient Babylon and Egypt, but it wasn't until the 9th century CE that the Persian mathematician Al-Khwarizmi wrote a book called the Compendious Book on Calculation by Completion and Balancing, which introduced the concept of using symbols to represent unknown quantities. So algebra is pretty old then. Yes, it is. But the development of algebraic notation and the use of letters to represent unknowns really took off in the 16th century with the work of mathematicians like Francois Get and John Day. What about trigonometry? When was invented? Trigonometry is the study of triangles and their properties. It has been studied for thousands of years, but it wasn't until the 2nd century BCE that the Greek mathematician Hippocrates developed the first systematic trigonometric tables. Trigonometry has countless applications in fields like navigation, physics, and engineering. I've heard of complex numbers. When were those discovered? Complex numbers are numbers that have both a real and imaginary part. They were first discovered in the 16th century by Italian mathematicians like Girolamo Cardano and Raphael Bombelli, but their properties were fully understood until the 19th century with the work of mathematicians like Carl Friedrich Gauss and Augustin Louis Cauchy. Okay, we've only got a few left. Next up is graph theory. This is a branch of mathematics that deals with the properties of graph, which are structures that represent relationships between objects. What kinds of objects? It could be anything, really. For example, social networks can be represented as graphs, with people as nodes and their relationship as edges. Graph theory has application in fields like computer science, transportation, planning, and genetics. What about game theory? When was invented? Game theory is the study of decision making in situations where two or more parties have conflicting interests. It was first developed in the mid 20th century by mathematicians like John Nash and John von Neumann, and it has applications in fields like economics, political science, and psychology. I've heard of cryptography. When was that invented? Cryptography is the study of codes and ciphers, and it's been around for a long time. The ancient Greeks used simple substitution ciphers, and the Romans used more complex ones, but the development of modern cryptography really took off in the 20th century with the invention of the Enigma machine and the work of code breakers like Alan Turing. Okay, we're down to our last two inventions. Next up is the chaos theory. It is a branch of mathematics that deals with systems that are highly sensitive to initial conditions, which has led to unpredictable behavior. That sounds really complicated. It can be, but it's also incredibly fascinating. Case study has applications in fields like physics, biology, and economics, and it helps us understand things like weather patterns, stock market fluctuations, and behaviors of the human hearts. What about fractals? When this discovered? Fractals are complex patterns that repeat at different scales. They were first discovered by the French mathematicians Benoit Mandelbrot in the 1970s, but their properties have been studied by mathematicians for centuries. Fractals have applications in fields like computer graphics, biology, and finance. Alright, that's all the time we have for today, but I hope you learned something new about the history of mathematics. Remember, math is all around us, and it's important to appreciate the contribution of mathematicians throughout history. So, class dismissed. You may